Gia and Tanya are my morning coffee.
Well, good morning, good people. Welcome to another edition of My Morning Coffee Live, where the conversation is always hot, bold, and full of flavor. Listen, we're not going to banter too much this morning. We have a little bit of time with a very important man, and we want to bring him on. He is the mayor of one of the fastest growing cities in California, and it has become the hub of sports and entertainment. Uh, it could be a little more popular than even Hollywood these days. How do you go about managing a city like this? How do you manage all those people and make sure that everything continues to progress? How are you dealing with your residents as this growth is happening? Because we all know that everyone does not like change. So we're going to go ahead and get into those conversations right now. Let's welcome Mr. Mayor Butts, the mayor of Inglewood, California.
Good morning, Tanya. Good morning, Gia.
Hello.
Good morning, Mayor.
Okay. How are you today?
I'm excellent. It's another great day in the city of Inglewood. Another day of progress.
I love that. So we're definitely going to get into that progress. Before we go any further, though, I want to ask what we always ask at the beginning. I'm going to start with Gia first, but go ahead and tell us what's in your cup, Miss Gia, and what you've been up to.
Good morning, you guys. Hey, I have coffee in my cup. I need a little pick-me-up today because we got the mayor of Inglewood on here, so I want to be alert because I know he got a lot of stuff he want to talk about with the people. So, and we got stuff we want to talk about with him too. What I've been up to this weekend, it's Mother's Day weekend, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers from My Morning Coffee. I did the Nothing But Black flea market this weekend at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall. So that's my thing every other Saturday. I've been doing that. So that was great. It was good to see the people. You know me, Tanya. I like to be out in the community with our peoples to see what's happening and chat with them a little bit about this and that. So that was good. Yesterday was Mother's Day, so I took my mom to breakfast at one of it's my favorite spots, but I think it's her favorite spot too. We went and ate at Blue Jam Cafe. So she hasn't really been out much, since the whole pandemic thing. So it was good to be able to get her out, because she's been fully vaccinated and stuff. So I felt more comfortable taking her out to eat, being around a lot of other people. So that was nice and quaint. And then I came home and then I actually worked on, I have a printing order. So I started working some more on that printing order on Sunday. And that's pretty much it of my little weekend. How about you, Tanya?
Well, let's see. I had an amazing Mother's Day. I did not do much of anything. I asked for nothing and I got absolutely nothingness, which is, these days we're going 100 miles per hour and it just felt good to do nothing. I think I took like a 2-hour bath yesterday. Might have let the water out and made some more. And the kids started yelling like, "Are you okay in there?" We're just not used to being still. And sometimes it's okay to just be still, process what's going on, think about what you want to do next, read some stuff. I did have the opportunity to speak with our guest last week because, there's a lot going on in law enforcement and city growth and just some things I wanted to get his take on. So, I got my morning coffee water, trying to stay hydrated, trying to stay healthy, and making sure that, we're just progressing. So, Mr. Mayor, what do you have in your cup and what have you been up to?
Well, I had some cran grape and I'm having some vitamin water right now. Worked out this morning. Mother's Day, wife and I walked 5 miles and we went over to my mother-in-law's house with our nephew that we've adopted because his mother's passed, and ate there and played bid whist and went home and went to bed.
Bid whist. I ain't played that in a long time. Listen, while you're on your vitamin water, we won't stay on it too long, but one of the conversations that I think it's important that we have as Black women with Black sons and husbands. Mental health and physical health. I want you to talk to me about, with all that you've done in law enforcement and city government, how do you stay healthy? And how do you help your city and staff stay mentally and physically healthy? Because you are the leader, so it starts with you. I want you to talk me through that a little bit.
That's a big question. Let's just talk about physical health. Physical health is an interesting conundrum, particularly in the Black community, because we are raised to eat any and everything. We're raised to clean your plate, it's an insult if you don't eat everything that someone cooks for you and puts in front of you. And the reality is your body is and your health is the sum total of what your hands put in your mouth. And we're not educated when it comes to the proper balance of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And we certainly don't have enough appreciation for vegetables. So you put all that together, combine it with a lack of exercise and age and a slowing metabolism, and you become vulnerable to all kinds of underlying conditions that can lead to early death. I have, in the last 4 months, lost now 6 classmates, either the class behind me, in my class, or the class ahead of me from Crenshaw High, that have died from heart attacks. And you combine our lack of willingness to go see a physician when something feels wrong with our lifelong dietary misadventures, and there's a great risk of not only dying early, but even worse, living longer and miserably.
You know, one of the things I have been pleased to see is the COVID lines at the forum, your forum. Now, there is a lot of misconception about COVID and the vaccine and the tests, and they're wrong and they're right. Why is it important for our community to get engaged in this conversation, and even more so, get vaccinated? Or do you think that's important?
Not important, it's critical.
Yes.
It's critical. We are way too susceptible as a people to myths and urban legends, and as a result, we get left out. But not only do we have COVID injections at vaccinations at the Forum, we have them at SoFi Stadium. We have them at our senior center here that we opened in 2018 to a $27 million beautiful facility, because it is important. And when I got vaccinated back in December, and when I talked to people and they said, well, no, they're going to put a chip in you. No, we get a different vaccine than other races. And I say, oh, so you were the type that when Noah was filling the ark for the great flood, you wouldn't have got on Noah's ark. And then they think, and probably 80% of them go on and get their vaccine. We have to convince each other to take advantage of this basically miracle that is going to change the course of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Where I know we've it's a lot of things going on, out here in society and stuff like that. And the big thing has really been the pandemic and us getting the shot and not getting the shot. And sometimes that's kind of, to me, it gets to be depressing. So I want to I want to move the conversation on to something else. I see in the background, you have a game, I think it's back there, called Inglewood Monopoly or something like that. I want to talk a little bit. Let's talk about that game back there. Yeah. Inglewood Monopoly. Let's talk about that, because I know it's a lot. You guys are doing a lot of great things. A lot of great things are happening in the city of Inglewood, and I'm from the city of Inglewood. I went to school in Inglewood, junior high and high school, And I've lived in Inglewood, so I'm familiar with Inglewood. It's close to my heart because that's where, you know, what they say, you're born and raised. That's where you got all your you learn the streets, so to speak, in your neighborhood. So I learned all my street savviness probably comes from me, from Inglewood. So and we know that there's been some people are welcoming all the changes that's happening in Inglewood, and then some people are kind of like, I don't really know if I'm liking all the stuff going on. And reason why I want to talk about it, because I experienced it from a work standpoint when they brought up the stadium to the city of Carson, because I'm LA County Sheriff and I worked Carson. I patrolled in the city of Carson, and I remember when that stadium came, and you know, all the, you know, the community, you know, you had those that were for it and you had those that were against it and stuff like that. And so I'm sure you guys are experiencing some of that same stuff in Inglewood. And you also have the, you know, we talked about it earlier, the media who has their spin on things, and sometimes it's not giving us the correct and accurate information. Can we talk a little bit about that? Let's talk about that Inglewood monopoly.
Okay, well, yeah, let's talk about that. Well, the representation of the game and the reason they made it reflects the change in the brand of Inglewood. Inglewood used to be a place that was a city of champions. Had the Lakers, the Kings. The racetrack did about 43,000 people a day. Lakers won a three-peat while they were here. And then in 1999, I've been in Inglewood since '72 when in the police department. I left in '91 as deputy chief to go to be the chief of police in Santa Monica for 15 years. And then I worked for the city of Los Angeles as an assistant general manager for the Los Angeles airport system in charge of public safety, counterterrorism, and security. So I've worked for 3 cities, and now I'm back to Inglewood for 10 years. Now, the Inglewood, after the Lakers and the Kings left in 1999 for Staples, and then off-track betting killed the racetrack population here because you could bet your horse from any track. Then there was the recession in '08 or '09, and then the housing crash, and it killed Inglewood. It came to an $18 million structural deficit. There'd be years when there were as many as 55 homicides in the city, and we had a 17.5% unemployment rate when I returned, one of the highest in the country, actually. And we would buy, took off February 1st of 2011. By September, October, we wouldn't have made payroll. We'd have been cash flow bankrupt. We had to cut 120 positions, eliminate a guaranteed lifetime medical retirement program, which was pay as you go, and we did not have the money for. And then we started to run the city more like a corporation who perform public services. You know, the main functions of a city are to provide for public safety, recreation, education, infrastructure renewal. But one big component that most elected bodies miss is you're responsible for setting a climate for economic development. And now we've come to the point where we came from, when I came back, the Lakers were gone, the Kings were gone, Airport Park Hotel was gone, the track was almost gone, it was down to 1,000 people a day. And we had Norm's, the Big Donut, and the Sizzler. When I came back in 2011, there was just the Big Donut and Sizzler. Now we've come from that to having reopened the Forum, now negotiated with a company from New York to invest in the Forum. And people said no one will ever come back to concerts to Inglewood because of the crime, because of the poverty, and because of the condition of the city. You know, our streets were in terrible condition. Well, within 14 months, the Forum was the #1 concert venue in the state of California, #2 in the country behind Madison Square Garden in New York, and #3 in the world for attendance. From there, we negotiated with 2 teams from the NFL, the Raiders and the Rams. And in the end, we were in competition with the city of Carson for the Chargers and the Raiders to build a stadium there, or for the Rams to build a stadium in Inglewood. You have to get 75% of the vote of the NFL. The owner has to have the financing and the desire to come. In the end, in 2016, we got that commitment from the NFL, and then the Chargers joined in 2017. Also in 2017, we opened negotiations with the Clippers to build an 18,000-seat state-of-the-art NBA arena and a mixed-use development to go with it. Everything has exploded since then. We've been awarded Super Bowl for 2022, the NCAA Championship Bowl game in 2023. The Clippers Arena will open in 2024, a FIFA World Cup in 2026. I can't forget WrestleMania in 2023, and then the Summer World Olympic Games in 2028. Now, but what does that mean, though? It means that that 17.5 unemployment rate, because we baked in a 35% local hire goal in all of our development agreements, dropped to 4.4% pre-pandemic. We have raised the property values. Well, property values have risen in Inglewood from about a median price house of about $225 at the end of 2012 to $750,000 today. We got the commitment. Well, actually, they moved. The Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles have left Marina del Rey to buy a building in Inglewood, not 1/4 mile from City Hall. The LA Philharmonic is in the midst of a $15 million renovation of a building where they're going to move their LA Phil Youth Orchestra program not 50 yards from City Hall. So what everyone tries to do, not everyone, but some people try to do, is snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And they complain about, well, people can't afford to buy and live in Inglewood. Well, over about 2 years ago, we instituted a 3% annual cap on rents in Inglewood, and we have a stricter rent control ordinance than in Los Angeles or Santa Monica. But the important thing is we continue with our 30 to 35% local hire goal for our big businesses, so the people that have been here and lived here have the opportunity to grow with the city and grow with the economy. And so we're not just an example of what you can do when you are business savvy and work deals. We also look out for our residents. We have not bonded for any of these superstructures. All cities that get teams, they either give land or bond money. We've done neither. So we call this just a total win-win. Like I said, never heard the complaints when there were 50 murders a year, when crime was through the roof, when nobody wanted to come to Inglewood. Inglewood is so popular branded now, and that's why we have our own game now. When they list properties in the Los Angeles area, as far away as some of the more upscale areas, they call them Inglewood adjacent in their flyers because they want you to know that you're near Inglewood. And
that's Mayor, I want to jump in here real quick because you said a lot of great things. A lot of great things are happening in Inglewood, and I guess maybe for me, I'm from other people out there in the city. Are you afraid that all the things that are coming to, and maybe this is what some of the people are afraid of that are coming to Inglewood, that the makeup of Inglewood is going to change? And when I say change, I'm talking about the color, okay? Because Inglewood for years has been, predominantly Black and brown community, and a lot of stuff that you listed that was coming, a lot of Black and brown. Let's just be talking about it. Some of that stuff they ain't doing. They ain't going to the Philharmonic and stuff like that. So just to name a few. So is that something that you guys, as a management standpoint, do you think about that? Are you concerned about that? About the city changing, because it is changing, so to speak, and it's a little joke amongst a lot of people that it's going to change to the point where we from Inglewood, we know Inglewood as Inglewood, but now they're saying that they don't call it Inglewood no more. They call it I-Town. Okay, you know, so.
See, they is, I don't know who they is. They don't say that to me. But let me go from the back forward. First of all, you said that we don't go to the LA Philharmonic. This is the youth orchestra program, and it is mandatory that we have at least 200 to 300 Inglewood youth allowed into the program to be tutored by the greatest orchestra musicians in the world.
Okay.
People don't know that, but we have a city subsidized tennis program here. So that our kids can come to Edward Vincent Park on courts that we spent close to $1 million to renovate to learn tennis. So no, we don't need to be put in a box of things that we do. We need to grow ourselves. Now let's talk about the demographics. You said that we were worried that the color of England would change. Well, here are the statistics right now. We're 50.6% Hispanic and 43.9% Black or African American. We're about 94, 95% of the population. But I almost laugh when I hear that comment made, because just what you just said, that's just what the whites said back in 1950 when Inglewood was all white and they were putting covenants into property agreements that you could not sell to a colored person. The first blacks that moved into Inglewood were in the late 50s or early 60s, and they had to have a white straw buyer buy the property and deed it to them. So what you just said right now is what the whites said in the late 50s and 60s as they migrated out because blacks moved in. So here's the reality. The reality is that Inglewood is 95% of color. The reality is it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. However, here's what's changed. The city is safer, it's cleaner. We've paved more miles of roadway and linear feet of sidewalk in the last 6 or 7 years than in the prior 30 years before that. We're safer. We're in our 7th consecutive year of the lowest crime rate in the history of Inglewood. In fact, in 2019, we had 2 murders, less than Santa Monica, Pasadena, or Torrance. So instead of talking about all these things that I've listed for you in this few minutes we've been together, this is what we hear about. Are we worried that more people of different races will find Inglewood desirable? That's an interesting thing to fear.
I want to ask you something in regards to leadership, really quick. What I do know is that it takes an amazing leader to be able to have public-private partnerships to grow a city, right? Every city once knew this and knew that, but you have to have a very structured and skilled leader to be able to usher in those types of projects. I happen to be in a city that does not have that type of leadership, and we struggle with new projects that the city wants to see. Can you talk to me about how cities around our country, especially now through COVID, can bring in some new and exciting things to invigorate their economy? Because they're struggling, and they may be struggling leadership-wise, they may be struggling some other kind of way. But in that regard, what you are able to do, I want you to speak to that. But I also want you to speak to the fact that I know you can't always be nice when you're doing that. So how have you been able to get these things done? You kind of stubborn. I've seen that already. You know what you know, and you make sure that everyone knows you know what you know. But you do still have to have a level of negotiation and input and buy-in from those that you lead. So talk to me about that.
Wow. Now, what we going to do? We got 2 hours or what?
I think I might get 10 more minutes.
Good grief. Well, first of all, let's talk about the business aspect. My background's in law enforcement, 37 years. I've run 3 police departments. My education's in business. I have an MBA from Cal Poly. I graduated summa cum laude. I believe that cities, voters should make it their business and an objective to elect leaders that not only share their political orientation, but that have the qualifications to run these municipal corporations that basically are responsible for to be nonprofits that deliver public services. If you don't do that, you end up with a potpourri of representatives and businesses that are going to invest millions and billions of dollars. Do not do it in places where there is political uncertainty, because political uncertainty equates to a greater risk of capital investment. So that's first and foremost. Now, when you talk about what should cities do, you should look at what your attributes for your cities are. What does your city do well? Well, let's look at Inglewood. We are 20 minutes from downtown LA. We're at the tip of the South Bay. We're adjacent to Westchester. We have a microclimate that is so beautiful that when it rains hard, most of us have to buy new umbrellas because we don't remember what we did with an umbrella the last time it rained hard. And we're within 2 miles of now the third busiest airport in the country. So what does that tell you? That tells you if we get our Public Safety Act together, if we pave our streets, renew our water system, and then negotiate within entertainment and sports, that we would have a chance to recapture our glory. And we've done more than that. So, every city is different. Every city has a different set of attributes. But first and foremost, you have to pick leaders that understand that they are building a culture. Because in the end, everything that you do is for a customer-oriented culture, first and foremost. And then develop your vision, long-term strategies to develop objectives to implement that vision and build an organization. This isn't just say, oh, I want the Rams to come here, or OIG, it'd be great for the Clippers to come here. No, it starts far before that. You have to build the basics of a city, a solid infrastructure, a customer service oriented workforce, and a culture in your organization that doesn't say, we just come to work and we do stuff today, and it may have something to do with what we did yesterday, and it might have something to do with what we do tomorrow. No, we have a vision and strategy, and you are part of this adventure that's going to make this city great.
I love that. I definitely appreciate that. We were wanted to find out, because this is also a problem in Southern California. What's the plan for the traffic and the gridlock that might be coming based on the new?
Well, first of all, it's interesting people say that, remember the track used to do 43,000 people a day, an average for 6 days a week. And that would be the outbound for the track against 17,500 for an inbound for a Laker game during rush hour. And so for me, the question is not what are you going to do about traffic? What do you do without traffic? Because in traffic, there are people with cash and credit cards, and they're coming to your town to spend money, which translates into general fund revenues to provide services for your residents. So first of all, the big question is, what do you do without the traffic? Now, what are we going to do about the traffic we anticipate is coming? One thing that we didn't have before, and I'm on the Metro Board for Los Angeles County, we have the Crenshaw line that comes through Inglewood along Florence, and we are working right now on a people mover that would meet at the Champion Station that is actually physically located at Market Street in Florence, that would go over Market Street, over Manchester, over Prairie with stations to let people off at the Forum, the SoFi Stadium, and the IBEC, the Clippers Inglewood Basketball Entertainment Complex. And so we are planning for the future. That is something that we have raised so far 323 million in grant monies to implement. We're still about 500 million away. We're going to petition the federal government for infrastructure money. And you raise a really, really good point. You have to be forward thinking and plan all the time.
I have another question for you, Mayor. I know the site is at SoFi Stadium. There's been some delays with the completion of the stadium, correct? Where it had been some delays. Is it completed now, or is it still some things going on?
Okay, when the delays that they did have,
okay,
they had when the rains came. It rained, like I said, it never rains here. It rained very hard. So, but to make up for that, they went to 24-hour shifts with the construction crews. So the stadium opened on time. And right now, the build out of the entire complex, this is 260 acres of the centerpiece is the SoFi Stadium, 70,000 seats, 100,000 standing room only, but there are going to be 2,000 residential units, 800,000 square feet of grade A office space, 900,000 to 1 million square feet of retail and fine dining. There are going to be 4 public parks, a 300-key hotel.
Where I was going with it.
A dine-in theater, and a lake.
Where I was going with that, I hadn't finished, but it doesn't sound like my question was: has the delay in the SoFi Stadium, has it caused delays in the other surrounding things that were supposed to be coming to the city? But it doesn't sound like it has, based on what you're saying. Sounds like everything is progressing the way it should be. So we should be having more stuff opening within that complex and around that complex soon.
Oh, absolutely. The Grace Park, a condominium development across from Inglewood Park Cemetery, is almost sold out right now. We have 101 unit affordable housing plus transitional homeless housing building that'll be open probably in the next 9 months near Redondo Beach Boulevard and West Boulevard. We have a 221 unit apartment building being built right at the corner of Market Street in Florence, across from the metro station. Across the street from that, on La Brea, we have another 144 units for a development called The Point. So no, nothing has been slowed down.
Wow,
great. Sound like you guys are bringing a lot of housing to with all the stuff that's happening. A lot more housing is coming to the city of Inglewood, and that's really great, because we all know that's been a big thing and throughout the whole Los Angeles as a whole, housing, and lack of housing and stuff. So sounds like Inglewood's on the forefront.
Let me leave you with another fact. We have more affordable housing units in Inglewood than anywhere in the South Bay, both in whole numbers and per capita.
So how do the people get some of this affordable housing?
Well, we have a housing department that you can call and get on the list if you're income qualified. To find out if you're income qualified, you go to the HUD website and then look at affordability, and they tell you based on your family size what your income has to be to qualify for either low, moderate, or just affordable.
Hey, I don't want to throw no shade, Mayor Butts, but I really want you to comment on cities that they cringe when they hear the words low income housing, because I know that it is mandated now that all new developments have some low income housing, but there are cities that actually cringe at that term. So can you tell the people what low income housing is?
Well, I mean, low income housing is subsidized housing. It means that the developer receives money either through the state or through a city through HUD grants or through or rental subsidies, and that's usually Section 8, so that part one, if you receive a grant, then what you do is it's a covenant that says for 55 years, this apartment will rent for no more than X amount of dollars. But the way it's made up for is that you preload the developer by giving them millions of dollars, so it subsidizes their building. The other part is vouchers, and that's Section 8. Hold on 1 second. Artie, I'm doing a Zoom interview. I'll call you in a few
I
minutes.
look at the mayor. He conducting business doing the podcast. I love it. See, he's a working mayor, people. He is a working mayor. Y'all see it live. He took a call. It never stops.
That was the city manager. So that, I mean, that's what subsidized housing is. And when you say that people cringe, I don't know what there's to cringe about. Everyone deserves to be able to have a home to live in.
What I think it is, Tanya, a lot of these cities is that they're really, because affordable housing is needed, because everybody doesn't make six-figure incomes and stuff like that. Let's face it, everybody's not living like that. So you do need to have, these cities do need to have housing that people can afford, that who make a little bit less, and stuff like that. But I think it's been such a negative connotation when you hear affordable or low income. They just think everything is negative people. But a lot of low income and affordable housing really, to me, is for seniors, because there are a lot of seniors out here, and I'm a living witness of this because I dealt with my own mother. When they get to be seniors and stuff, their income does change, and sometimes they can't afford regular rents like people that are working, the working class and stuff. So you do need these cities. They need to get on board with that and welcome. And everything that's low income is not negative, it's not bad, but I think it's got a bad reputation. When you hear low income, you just think, oh, it's just gonna be this negativity around it, and it's not that way.
Mayor, we have a question for you. How can the local businesses get involved with all of the building that is going on in the city? We've tried, and we keep on being told we aren't minority business or DBE. We're a 56-year-old local small business in Inglewood. How can they get involved? Do you want to give me some information I can send back to them, or let them know now?
Well, first of all, we only have a 30% local hire goal for MBEs or disadvantaged businesses. So that means 70% of the business is available to anyone. And quite frankly, if they can't find a qualified MBE or DBE, then they're not going to be hired. I think I probably know who you're talking about, but the reality is that over 70% of the business goes to just any and everybody, and the disadvantaged businesses numbers are just goals. They're not absolutes.
Got it. So listen, before we let you go, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so you just bid for the business just like everybody else.
I love that. Before we let you go, you've accomplished so much. You've ushered in so much change in the city of Inglewood, California. What do you want your legacy to be?
That we took a city that everybody drove through on the way to the airport to making it a destination city that upgraded the lives of its residents by providing prevailing wage employment, and that gave the residents that bought here and stayed here through the worst of times the opportunity to accumulate generational wealth, just like the homeowners in Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, Torrance, Pasadena, Glendale, so that when they can make the choice as to whether they're going to use their equity as retirement income, pass that generational wealth on to their children, or cash out and do whatever they want with their lives. That we made Inglewood not only equal but we provided equity for Inglewood residents.
And personally, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered.
You know I'm gonna ask. I want to know.
As someone that made a great contribution to the history of the city, period.
Well, it sounds like and looks like you're doing that, Mayor, because you have ushered in a lot of great things in Inglewood, and I can see that you're going to continually do that. So I'm excited about what's the future of Inglewood. I really am. I think it's the stuff that's happening. It's going to be great. I think people got to get used to it. I think the people that are complaining or have some apprehension about a lot of stuff about the traffic and stuff like that, those people were young kids probably when the racetrack was around in the Forum and stuff. So they don't realize that Inglewood's always had traffic. So traffic is not that's not going to be new to Inglewood. But that's why I think the problem is and some people are transplants, Mayor. They wasn't born and raised in Inglewood, so they don't understand that Inglewood at one time was popping and it's popping again. So we just got a little.
And remember this. Cities that depend on their indigenous sales taxes, property taxes, and local taxes generated by the confines of the city, they do well in great boom years for the economy, but every recession they struggle and they have to lay people off. Cities that are destination cities that bring in people and cars from other locations, they make it through without having to lay people off and cut their employee salaries and so on and so forth. So, like I said, people said, "What about the traffic?" I said, "Well, what did we do when all the traffic went away?" And the last thing I'm gonna leave you with is the only thing that's changed in Inglewood is everything.
I love that.
All right.
Well,
all right.
Yeah. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for continuously talking to me and educating me on some of these things that I'm still learning about, but more so spending time with our audience. Ms. Gia, last words to the mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you're doing an excellent job. Continue to do the job. Continue to fight, because I know it's a fight at times. So, but continue doing what you're doing, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. It was such an enjoyable morning talking to you.
Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Take care now. Bye.
Bye.
All right, Miss Gia, we have another amazing guest coming on. We can recap, Mayor, real quick. What do you think? And did it change your mind about anything?
No, not really, because I kind of know I know a little bit what's going on, because I'm not a resident anymore of Inglewood, so I'm not in it, but being, growing up there, I was there, I grew up there when the racetrack was there and the Forum was there and things like that. But again, I was younger, I was a teenager, and so the things that I think about now as an adult, those were things I was thinking about as a kid growing up in the city and stuff. So, and I think that's what's going on too. A lot of people who don't feel a certain way about what's going on. They, either they were kids or they weren't even born then. And then when they were in Inglewood, nothing was happening. So it's like, oh, it's kind of, this is Inglewood, but they don't know the Inglewood of before. So, yeah, and I could tell he's been taking a lot of heat from some of this stuff, because he was kind of defensive with some of the stuff. But that goes with the territory. When you're a mayor of a city, you're gonna get some people that are not happy with some stuff that's going on and stuff. But it seems to be that they have a lot of stuff planned. His numbers he threw out were some good numbers, and we just have to sit back and wait and see, what it looks like in the end once everything is finished and things are flowing. We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah. And what we always say is, if you have a concern or you have a question, get active. Don't wait till a project is done to then you want to complain about it. If there's something that you want to see that you think that your community needs, don't wait till the project is done to complain and lodge. You want to picket and you want to be upset. Get involved now, because now is the time when change needs to be made, right?
Yeah, right. And that's why I think the problem is when I say we, I'm speaking probably of us Black and brown people. We've shied away from politics, getting involved in city government and stuff like that, and things are happening. And I think we all what we see going on within the last 5 to 6 years shows us that we all should probably be getting involved in our city and what's going on to be able to have a voice. Because if you're not there, they're making decisions and doing things, and then, like you said, once it's already in the works, then we finally hear about it and we want to complain. Well, now it's kind of too late. You should have been doing that a little bit earlier, because I know a lot of stuff is going on around the Baldwin Hill Crenshaw Mall. It's gone through a few different buyers and stuff. And then from what I hear, I was there this weekend, some of the local residents and stuff are saying now that whoever the buyer is now, their plans is to tear the mall down and build apartments like they have over there on, I think, Los Angeles and Jefferson or something like that. And Inglewood Crenshaw Mall has been, a staple in that part of the city for years. As a kid growing up, I remember going shopping there, getting my Easter outfit and stuff like that, even my school clothes from that shopping center, because it was all outdoor shopping center then. So, it's kind of like, wow, these businesses want to come in and they just want to, tear everything down and build a bunch of high-rise apartments and stuff. Yeah, that area does probably need housing, but it doesn't need it like that to tear down a staple. That's to me, it's a historic landmark in that part of Los Angeles. Yeah. So, but again, if the citizens are not getting involved, with the city government, that kind of thing, these things are bound to happen. We have to speak up. We have to be a voice for where we live and do things. And so hopefully the citizens will prevail and the mall will stay. But, we know what it's like when money speaks sometimes louder than, our voices. But
well, to continue our celebration of Mother's Day, we have an amazing mother on next. And since we are talking about one of the new entertainment capitals of the nation, and the NFL and the NBA stadium, we have a dope WNBA agent. She's actually a sports agent, but she's been doing great work in the WNBA, and she's a mom. So let's go ahead and bring on Trisonya Thomas and talk to her about what she's been up to, and let's see if we can find out what in her. Hi.
Good morning, ladies. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
Good morning.
Absolutely. I've heard some great things about you, so we're super excited to have you. First, I want to ask you, one, what's in your cup? Because I saw you drinking something. And how was your Mother's Day?
I am drinking herbal tea, and my Mother's Day was outstanding. So I have 4 adult children now, 24, 22. They just graduated the day before Mother's Day, so that was a perfect gift. He just graduated from Lewis and Clark.
What?
So we're really excited and proud of him. And I have a 19-year-old who's attending Whittier, and I have a 16-year-old who's a sophomore in high school.
Well, motherhood definitely has not aged you. You look amazing.
Oh, you're so kind.
Oh my God. But okay, so you have grown kids. Lord have mercy. Listen, Let me go ahead and back up really quick. Where are you from? Tell the people where you're from and how you got to where you are now.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Compton, California, and I earned a scholarship to USC and Long Beach State in volleyball. And at Long Beach State, I won a national championship, and then I played with the national team. And then I pursued a career professionally overseas in volleyball. So that's how I actually got my start. So while I was playing overseas, I started getting jobs from friends because club teams came up to me and said, "Do you want to be basketball?" I just said, "Yeah." I went to USC and Long Beach State. I had a whole bunch of friends. So I started getting my friends jobs. So before I knew it, I'm hanging out in Milan with 10 of my friends. And when I tell you it was the best time of our lives, it was incredible. So we're talking about Europe 30 years ago. So you didn't know where you were going. It was on a map. You went blindly on faith. And so once you knew other people that were there, it became quite comfortable. And so then I found out you got paid to do contracts. And that's actually how my business got started. So I call myself the poor man's, the poor man LeBron James agents, because I went with my friends but not at that scale, right? So it was incredible. And so my friends that I got jobs to initially said, yeah, you were doing what Rich Paul was doing 30 years ago, but with women on a much lower scale. So
wow, that's very interesting to hear that, because I never knew anything about volleyball being professionally done overseas. So you're educating me. So that's interesting. That how you got into your career via volleyball as opposed to the tradition, what we know, basketball and other sports like that.
Right.
My cousin, my younger cousins played for some travel volleyball teams up north. But what I've realized is that travel ball isn't just basketball and baseball anymore. Right. It has become so much more inclusive with volleyball, and there's more women of color in volleyball. Talk to me about when you were younger and how it has changed in your view. Are you still keeping up with the sport?
Oh, most definitely. Come on. That's my first love, right? So I am proud to say that my volleyball team at Long Beach State, we won a national championship, and we were the first ever national championship volleyball team to start 5 Black starters. And this was 30 years ago. So it has never been done. It has not been duplicated. And it just was very fortunate that we all ended up together. But when I initially started playing, I didn't start playing until I was 14. And I'd be in the gym with 300 girls, and it'll be 3 of us. And it just so happens that the 3 girls that were in the gym with me in high school, we all ended up on the same volleyball college team by happenstance. We all took different directions in college and then ended up at Long Beach State.
Wow. So are your kids athletes? Some?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. But unfortunately, it wasn't volleyball. My daughters played basketball. So my daughter is playing basketball for Whittier. And my oldest daughter played for a year at Concordia and decided she didn't like it. So she's pursuing med.
Wow. Okay. So now your career in the WNBA, talk to me about that and how you decided to go ahead and continue to pursue that career instead of so many other things you could have done.
So my company, so initially when I started signing my friends, it became like word of mouth. And I went from 10 clients, 10 of my friends, to 25 people under contract. And so at the time, I was the only female agent specializing in women's basketball. And it is a male-dominated sport. So I believe women just felt very comfortable with me and gravitated to me from my experience of being an athlete, and they could relate to me. And so my client list grew I went from 10 to 20 to 65 at the height of my agency. In that entire period, being pregnant and taking care of my family.
So right now, your agency, you represent all types of clients, or just?
I still specialize in female athletes. I have basketball players, volleyball players, and I am just now starting to pivot my company because of the pandemic and what's happened in professional sports. I'm now pursuing a few college coaches, and I'm actually in negotiations with a few coaches to get them under contract. And I have one that I'm very excited about. So I hope I can come back on the show and talk about her as soon as I have her under contract. But she's in the LA area. So it's going to be very exciting once she signs with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Love that. Yes, I love that. But I want to, as exciting as this all is, I want to keep it very relatable. Talk to me about the difficulties that you have had with your clients in this field, the struggles that women go through in a sport that men also play, and how you have been able to help overcome some of those obstacles.
I think because of my experience. So everything that my clients want to aspire to, I have already had gone through. college, the transition from college to pro, and then from pro to transitioning to first year pro, third year pro, onward, and also into retirement. So I have a very unique approach and niche because I'm hands-on, and I've always tried to keep my company small by design because I do work one-on-one with my clients. I do have interns who do most of my administrative work, but no one talks to my clients but me. No one negotiates the contracts but me. And so I think that having that one-on-one relationship with with my clients and helping them through their journey directly has been a big impact.
I love that. Now, do your kids, have they always known what you've done, and like how do they relate to that? Because I always want to think about how kids see their parents, because my kids used to think my husband played sports because he traveled so much, but he was actually in tech, traveling so much. So what do your kids think you do?
Oh, they know what I do. They know what I do. So my kids often were drugged to the gyms with me. And, and this is before, so this is talking 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 25, and my kids are infant and have to work. So I would bring my kids with me to the gym. So I would have my nanny and she would take the children, and then I would work, talk to my players, whatever need to be done in the gym and watch games. And on a few occasions, I actually had a ball girl, because I didn't have my nanny with me, hold my child who I knew her from, because there was a Portland team, and I knew the young lady, so I asked her just to play with my son while I tried to sign another client. Well, it shows you how funny the world is. That woman that was the young girl that was actually babysitting for me ended up being my client, and she was actually drafted like number 4 or 5 into the WNBA. So it's quite a fun story of how women helping other women. You know what I'm saying? And there's just a big, I started my company because I wanted other women to have that experience. When I went I'm from Compton, California. What am I doing in Milan, Italy? How does that happen? So I sat down with one of my girls, the 3 of us. There was a girl from DC, Compton, and Detroit 30 years ago in Milan. We're like, how did we get here? I mean, it was incredible. And so when I started my company, I wanted other women to have that experience because it changed my entire life.
So by being overseas, do you still, that was 30 years ago, and let's fast forward to now, is that something that you talk to your clients about? Do you push like them playing overseas as opposed to, being here? I'm in the sports, but I'm not in the sports like yourself and probably Tanya, because all Tanya kids are phenomenal sports players and stuff like that. So she probably knows more about the ins and outs of sports. But me, and I'm also talking for our viewers and stuff. If I'm a young girl and I play volleyball, basketball and stuff, what's it like for a woman overseas playing, as opposed to, we always hear about guys going overseas and playing and they do well and stuff like that. But we hardly ever hear about women going overseas and playing.
Right. So there is a large market for women to play overseas. There's many sports. There's lacrosse, there's softball, volleyball, handball, and overseas they're considered club sports, but they bring in 1 or 2 players from the U.S. and those are their primary players, and they center the team around those 2 players, and they build with their local players in whatever country they're in. But in the WNBA, because the WNBA is only a 4-month season, the WNBA players have to go overseas to subsidize their income. And so overseas contracts consist of it's an 8-month contract in Europe, and in Asia, it's a 4-month contract. But you have your housing paid for, transportation, and you get a salary. And you get to experience the world. But things have changed drastically because of what's currently going on with COVID. So when I was or like I said, my clients are in Europe, they usually go to their teams and they travel throughout Europe and have a great experience. But because of COVID, that's limited the ability to travel to other countries. And Asia this year actually closed the market to Americans. So there were no American women playing in Asia. So hopefully that will, as we stabilize with the vaccine, things will open up again.
How do young girls go about even learning that these are the options? You know, it's all.
Well, they know now. Social media is just so most of the young women that play overseas now, everyone's on Instagram and they're showing their experience of being abroad. And with technology, so many teams now are reaching out directly to players that are in college or they see on social media and recruiting them that way. So in the sports world, young women know what they're well versed of what their options are versus, even 5 years ago, things have changed so much with technology.
They have. Did you have or do you have a mentor? Do you recommend having a mentor going into being a business owner, an agency owner?
Most definitely. I learned everything by trial and error. And I gotta tell you, I tell people all the time, if what I know now, and I mentor a few young people that are pursuing entrepreneurship, and it's just there's things no one tells you about, and you have to learn it in the midst. And unfortunately, some of those lessons are painful and costly, But once again, with technology, you can go online and start learning how to be an entrepreneur. So we're talking 30 years ago. There was no one in my family owned a business. I didn't know any business owners. I didn't know how to conduct business. And I was fortunate enough that I had talented clients that demand a high style. So you enter a different phase when you have a product that everyone wants, right? So it was a lot easier for me to do business versus someone who didn't have very good clients.
Yeah, that's so true. I think we do a disservice nowadays, us that are entrepreneurs, are in business, or any profession, that are not mentoring young people. Because you're right, 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, 10 years ago, you didn't have anybody there to help you along the way. And a lot of times, a lot of us have learned things through trial and error. And yeah, you're right, we can go to the internet and find out how to do a lot of different things. But I think it's just something added about having a live person there to talk to, because you can read a whole lot of stuff and still not get it the way you could get it one-on-one talking with someone. So I think mentorship is an excellent thing, and we all should be mentoring people.
Oh, without a question. But like I said, representation matters. Seeing someone who looks like you, who's worked hard, who's put in the work, I mean, it makes a difference. Like I said, and that's why I believe initially with my business, people gravitated to me because I look like them. I've had the same experience, and like I said, I'm the first person in my family to go to college. I'm the first person to graduate. I'm very proud of that. And I look at my kids now; they understand it's expected, and it makes a difference.
I have a question. Would you, Trisonya, consider working with or partnering with another agency, like a Rich Paul, if the opportunity presented itself?
Oh, most definitely. I would definitely be interested.
I love that. Now, listen, one of the things that we've learned most in entrepreneurship and helping other people is a lot of people get into entrepreneurship, start a business. They think, I'm starting this business so that I can have more free time. Ma'am, I'm here to tell you and everybody else, having a prosperous business, I have never had less personal time in my life. But I want you to talk to me about your business, how you've grown it, and what a day in the life looks like for you.
And it's so funny you say that, because I had a conversation maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to someone about being an entrepreneur. I said, you understand being an entrepreneur is like being a farmer, right? There's always something that needs to be done. There's always somewhere that you need to water or take care of. And so it's constant. And because I have a global business, I've had to adapt to going to bed at 7 o'clock, so I can wake up and start working in Europe at 8 in the morning, which is 12 o'clock, midnight my time. It just depends on what part of the country that I'm working in. I mean, in Europe, I adjust my time. So because of the changes with COVID, things have slowed down tremendously for me. And with Asia, the market being closed, and that's my biggest market. So things have slowed down. So they're not as hectic, but it's just maintaining the relationships with people and staying on what jobs are opening up, what countries are going to start looking for players. And every country has a different, FIBA is the big league, but each country has, like, Romania has the federation, Italian federation. So they all have different rules and regulations they have to keep up on. So as things are changing, I'm constantly maintaining what's happening in those countries.
What is your biggest challenge here in the United States? And what does post-COVID look like for you?
It's interesting. The biggest challenge now is what's next. I mean, there's uncertainty now with college athletes. And this year, because of COVID, college athletes were granted another year of eligibility. So some players didn't, of course, the best of the best have entered into the WNBA and are pursuing careers professionally. But so now it's kind of like a logjam of players and not enough jobs. So now that's a big problem.
So how do you rebuild? And talk to me about not just being able to grow the business, but your brand. What does it represent? And how are you using that to grow after COVID? Because I think a lot of people don't recognize how building a brand is important. So talk to me about your brand and how you plan to use it to grow out of this.
Well, as I stated earlier, I'm just now pivoting my business a little bit and pursuing college coaches. And I think with my expertise in contract negotiations and all the relationships I've fostered over the last 25 plus years, has given me an ability to see a greater perspective of the bigger side of sports through the business world. And it's about relationships. And so now I'm going back to those relationships with coaches I've had for the last 25 years, and my players who are now retired and now are entering coaching, and have other athletes and coaches that don't know me directly, but know my work ethic. And being in business for 25 plus years, you have to have some integrity. I mean, there's to sustain in a business that long, you have to have integrity, work hard, and a solid brand that is providing a service that is at a high level.
Do you think your kids will go into your business? Will they follow you?
My son, who just graduated, is going. He just applied for law school, so he did ask me. He said, "Can I intern with you?" I said, "That's something we can talk about." Yeah.
That is so cool. Listen, I wanted to ask you, would you be interested in working with other professional athletes, not just WNBA or women, but are you open to working with all types of professional athletes?
And as I stated earlier, I started my business because I wanted to empower other women to have the ability to maneuver. And things have changed now, and women, there is a greater voice, and more women are empowered. And now I would be open to working with other athletes. And I have worked with a handful of men, but I just felt a greater need to go back and help women. But so I would be definitely open to helping. I would like to possibly pursue other sports with women.
What was your best and your worst experience? No names, but in this business, I'm sure you had some amazing wins and some I wish I would have never done that moments, but talk to me about that.
This business is interesting because there is a cast of characters, and I won't name any name, but I've had clients that have called me because they're boarding the plane to go fulfill their contract overseas, and they said, "I've just been arrested because I had a gun in my TSA bag by mistake."
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like what I say, the higher you go up the food chain in professional athletes. And I said, I've had some of the best athletes in the world, and happened on the night too. They're not bad people. They just make mistakes, right? That are costly. I've had players who've had DUIs. overseas and domestically. And you and I would think, why don't you just call a town car? But now it's Uber. Call an Uber, and they don't do it. So unfortunately, those have been some of the not so pleasant phone calls I've gotten in the middle of the night.
Wow. There's been a lot of social issues that have impacted sports forever, really, but definitely in the last year and a half, 2 years, even before COVID, the shut up and dribble,
Right.
these types of conversations continue to happen. How do you deal with your potential clients and clients with knowing that they are dealing with heavy social issues as an athlete, whether they're Black or not?
It has changed so much, and I will say it's refreshing that you can have a voice now. Before you couldn't have a voice. So for Black athletes to be able to have a voice, I so appreciate that. And on the other side, I said I have quite a few European clients, and white clients, and everyone now is learning how to navigate together. And we're learning as we go. I wish I had the answer to it. Like this is how it's going to be. We don't have it. So we learn as we go. And the WNBA has done a great job in embracing all of the Black Lives Matter, and that has been a great support. Because I wasn't quite, I think all of us were unsure how organizations were going to respond, because historically they've just been quiet, and now that they have had to step up.
Well, it sounds like you would be wonderful to represent just about anyone I know. I want you to tell the audience what you have coming up and how they can keep up with you.
Okay. They can, I'm on my social media. So I have Instagram. It's just my name, Trisonya. And I also have a webpage. It's Trisonya, www.trisonya.com. And so right now the WNBA season is starting this Friday, May 14th. And my client, Damiris Dante, will be playing against Phoenix. So that's exciting. And like I said, I'm working on contracts with a couple of local coaches. So I'm working to get them signed. And once that happens, I'll be out there helping them with their marketing and their contracts. So I'm excited about that.
I love that. Gia, anything before we wrap up? Uh-oh, you're on mute, mama.
What do I have coming up? You can catch me on March 22nd at the Nothing But Black Flea Market. And that's really about it. That's all I have going, I'm laying low a little bit,
Laying low?
Yeah, I'm laying low. Actually, I'm busy. I'm working on a big job, so it's taking a lot of my time. So
yeah, you've been kind of quiet recently. That's how I know you're working. You real quiet. You just stealth in your work. So
I'm working for other people right now. So when I work for other people, I can't do anything for me. I'm working for other people right now. So I'm trying to get their stuff done, and then I can jump back into my stuff. But I do have some things coming out. I don't want to talk about them right now. Oh, I do have something exciting. I remember I mentioned earlier on social media that my denim patch sweatshirts were going to be on a TV series, and the series is called Vicious. It's about a fashion designer. I can tell you that much right now. I don't know the network it's going to be premiering on, but from my understanding that my sweatshirts are in a couple. You'll see them. So I'm excited about that. Once it airs, that you'll be able to see some Mahogany Box product on a TV series. So that's exciting. So yeah, I have that coming up. So
it won't be the first time that we've seen lights and cameras on your stuff. So always exciting to hear about your new stuff and your new project without me. Oh my God. But I wanted to definitely thank everyone that has been following and supporting the show and showing up on Mondays live and downloading the podcast on Apple Podcasts. So continue to support. We have some cool stuff coming out. We do have a podcast network. So we'll be having other guests from other shows that we're going to be a part of. I mean, it's just fun. Post-COVID, we're about to be acting up. Okay. Acting
And we also have we're going to have some new My Morning Coffee merchandise coming out. I'm not going to spill the tea. I'm not going to spill the coffee just yet. But you know your girls in the background. I'm working on a few different things. So hopefully they'll pan out and you guys will support us in that venture too. So, be on the lookout for new merchandise.
Absolutely. So, Miss Trisonya, we want to thank you for spending time with us. As usual, you all follow My Morning Coffee Drip on Instagram, follow My Morning Coffee on Facebook, subscribe to the podcast. You can always find me on Tanya McKenzie PR on all socials. And until next week, we will see you. Have a great day.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.